What is going on, Clipper Nation? You are tuning into the Clip Service Podcast, your one-stop shop for all Clipper things. I would say all the time, but we've been pretty busy. We've been trying to get to you guys as regularly as possible this offseason. Our offseason archives episode log has been a little bit shorter than it normally is, but we're here. Well, I'm here. My co-host Rolla is unfortunately unavailable. We've been busy, guys. I'm sorry to say I would love to do this full time, but unfortunately, I can't. But I will always make the time, and Rolla will too. Unfortunately, he just couldn't this time around. But nevertheless, I am here. I'm your host, Nick Jacobs, and this is the last offseason archives episode. Oh, also, sorry, you can catch us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Deezer. You can check us out on YouTube. Get at us on Twitter and on Instagram at ClipServicePod. You guys know the drill. Sorry, I'm just jumping the gun a little bit, guys. I'm so excited for this season to start. We finally made it through this interesting offseason, to say the least. It started out great. The Clippers addressed some needs that they needed to address. Unfortunately, we had to see Norm go. We had to see Amir go. Some fan favorites go. But we brought in, Chris Paul, Clipper legend, definitely my favorite Clipper of all time, is back with the team. As we all know, the Clippers addressed a glaring hole in the backup center rotation by adding starting caliber center Brook Lopez, NBA champion, stretched the floor. They added a guy that Clipper fans have been clamoring for years, myself included, guilty as charged, John Collins. He was acquired in the Norman Powell trade. Clippers drafted a couple interesting young guys, Yannick Coden-Niederhauser, Kobe Sanders, a couple two-way guys that are showing some promise. Unfortunately, the Clippers waived Trenton Flowers, John Poulikitis, Jason Preston. All of those guys, unfortunately, were waived or let go. But nevertheless, guys, the Clippers addressed some needs where I got off track. I'm so sorry, guys. Oh, yes. Clippers started out the offseason on the right track, addressed some needs, filled in spaces that were pretty big issues last year, particularly, at the power forward position, center position, and the backup point guard. They addressed all of those things. And then the aspiration bullshit happened. I'm not even gonna explain it. You guys all know the drill. Basically, Steve Ballmer and the Clippers organization, Kawhi Leonard, his constituents, his camp, they were all kind of in hot water. There was allegedly some cap circumvention issues with a fraudulent company called Aspiration that is still obviously, as we all know, under investigation by the league. As you guys know, Pablo Torre put out a piece investigating all of this. Also, and guys, for the record, I love investigative journalism. I think it's largely important. I'm just going to come out here and say this, that Pablo Torre's been moving a little bit weird on social media. It's a little bit more clickbaity and a little bit less investigative journalism, just in my humble opinion. But basically, yeah, he put this piece out that led to the investigation that is still pending. But it seems like, while the investigation is going on, the noise around that has died down a little bit, and the Clippers and their fans can enjoy the vibes that they brought about with these acquisitions. And things are good, guys. I hope. Until the investigation is complete, I'm just gonna keep my head up and hope for the best. But guys, preseason came to an end. Clippers played 4 games, won 3 of them. I'm gonna quickly jump into those right now, actually. So the first game the Clippers played, and I'm just gonna go through this pretty quickly. I'm playing catch up here, so I don't want to dwell too much on this, but I'll talk a little bit about what I liked and what I found interesting from these 4 preseason games. So the first game was against the. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. I'm so sorry for just butchering this. The Guangzhou Long Lions, a professional team out of China. In the exhibition game, the Clippers beat them 142-95. This was just an absolute shellacking by the Clippers. Victor Oladipo, Frank Kaminsky, Tim Frazier, all former NBA players, were playing for the Long Lions. It was good to see Victor Oladipo back on the court. He had himself a game, 24 points. I would be interested to see if he makes his way back to the league. But as for the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard led the team with 18 points. Kawhi looked sharp, 18 points in 18 minutes, 2 assists, only 1 turnover, clean work, looked good. The bounce was there, 6 for 10 from the field, 5 for 8 from the 3-point line. So he was really shooting the ball willingly and making it at a high clip this game, which was really good to see because, in times past, when Kawhi Leonard was coming back from injury, as we know, he had a healthy offseason, but when he was coming back from injury, one of the things that fans, myself included, noticed was when he was trying to get his threes up, they were either falling short or there just wasn't that lift in his legs, and we obviously did not see that in this game. Kawhi Leonard had his bounce. He looked spry. He looked good. But the starting lineup in this one was Kawhi, Derek Jones, Ivica Zubac, James Harden, and Bogey. Bogey only played 2 minutes. Bogey suffered some sort of knee injury, I believe, during Eurobasket. So I think he's kind of working his way back from that. He's also, I would say, sort of behind the 8 ball in terms of the rotation. That's no indictment on Bogey, but I do think that he'll probably get pushed a little bit further back with the new additions on the rotation, especially now that he's, kind of working his way back into game shape. James Harden, a little bit quiet, 16 minutes, 5 points. He did have 9 assists. I believe all of those were at in the first half. Ivica Zubac had a great game, 15 points, only 5 rebounds, 2 assists, had a steal, but just efficient stuff from Zoo, 7 of 8. And Derek Jones, who was, like I said, with the starting lineup in this game, 6 points, scored all of his points from the 3-point line. Good stuff from Derek Jones. Just, a lot of activity from Derek Jones always, which is, great. It was a big reason why our defense was as good as it was last year. Hopefully that continues. Off the bench, John Collins was really impressive in this one, in my opinion. 15 points, 4 rebounds. He was really helping on the glass. The activity was there. Even if he wasn't securing the rebound, you can tell that it was a point of emphasis for the Clippers to have John Collins contribute on that side of the floor. That was somewhere, the Clippers were a really good defensive rebounding team. I know Zoo led the league in defensive rebounds, but I think the Clippers were actually a very good defensive rebounding team for most of the season. But, as we've all seen in the past, the Clippers have struggled on and off with rebounds and securing those defensive rebounds and keeping teams off the offensive glass. So any help from, a big-bodied individual like John Collins is more than welcome. The dude's super athletic. And then, like I said, 15 points was a plus 26. Hit a 3, 6 for 8 from the field. Great stuff from John Collins. Loved it. Sorry. I got lost in my notes here. Chris Paul, official first game with the Clippers, even though it was preseason. Chris Paul, this was just really cool to see, just in general. Having Chris Paul back in a Clipper jersey, I was geeking. It took me back to my Lob City, to the Lob City years. 17 minutes, he was able to chalk up 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, just really good, classic vintage stuff from the point guard in a very short amount of time. He is going to be such a help off the bench. There's that sense of ball security when he's on the floor, and it's something that the Clippers didn't really have in the past couple of years. We floated around. I'm not even going to go as far back as John Wall. Well, okay, John Wall, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Porter Jr. There was always just like an oh shit moment when those guys would check on the floor, and it's not really too much of an indictment on those guys, but ball security wasn't particularly their strong suits. Let's put it that way. And one of the most efficient playmakers, one of the best in terms of taking care of the ball, in NBA history. Chris Paul, having him even in his old age coming off the bench is just it's such a luxury, and it was very apparent in this one. Obviously, exhibition game, the level, the talent disparity was obviously very strong in this one. But yeah, I mean, nevertheless, Chris Paul leading your bench unit is definitely a luxury, even in 2025. He was great in this one. Brook Lopez wasn't this particular game wasn't Brook's strongest showing. I'll talk about the other games later, but still chipped in with 9 points. Only 1 for 4 from three. We'll get into some more Brook in a second, but a lot of great defensive activity from Chris Dunn as always. Nico Batum chipped in with 5 points. Jordan Miller had himself a really good game in this one. A lot of it was in garbage time, but 11 points for Jordan Miller. Just good stuff. Bradley Beal did not play in this one. Bradley Beal did not play until the last preseason game, but I will get to that shortly. The next game was against the Denver Nuggets, the only game that the Clippers lost in preseason. This game, the intensity was there. Obviously, it was a preseason game, but it's pretty clear that these teams don't really care for each other. It's kind of the same vibe that the Clippers, maybe not as intense because of Luka's just complete disdain for the Clippers, and obviously that was reciprocated. But this almost the Nuggets Clippers rivalry is starting to feel like that, where it's you can tell that both teams wake up for any matchup, even in preseason, and it got a little chippy, and both teams were playing really, really hard. I'm not really even going to go into the Nugget side of things in terms of the box score. Aaron Gordon looked good, as he kind of always does against the Clippers. Jokic, 12 points only. Zoo tends to guard him really well, so that was pretty apparent in this one. But as for the Clippers, 17 points out of Kawhi Leonard, another efficient scoring output, 17 points in 19 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field. Didn't shoot lights out the way he did in the previous game. In this one, only 1 for 6 from three, but got to the line, 6 for 6 from the line, 2 steals. He's Kawhi Leonard's been really aggressive, particularly from a scoring standpoint. Not focusing as much on the rebounds and on the assists, as we've seen in previous years. But I think that's kind of the point. I think Kawhi Leonard can finally, with the pieces that the Clippers have added, Kawhi Leonard can really focus in on being a scorer and exerting all of his energy on that end. The lineup in this one was actually interesting. So it was Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, Derrick Jones, Ivica Zubac, and James Harden. So Clippers went pretty big for this one. Collins and Derrick Jones starting next to each other was pretty cool to see. 12 points from Derrick Jones. Was efficient again in this one. The activity was there. He was leaking out pretty frequently. James Harden was able to find him on a couple leak outs for a dunk or for a layup. Great stuff from DJ again. 9 points from John Collins. Chipped in with 4 rebounds. Ivica Zubac was great. 11 points, 10 rebounds, 5 of 6 from the field. Again, super efficient. 1 for 4 from the free throw line. I hope that Zoo kind of cleans up that aspect of his game when the regular season starts, because last season that was kind of my only knock on him, really. He was great at everything else, had a career year. But the free throws are a little bit of a concern with Zoo. He's shooting them at a pretty low clip from what it seems, but hopefully he can kind of get back to his averages at the free throw line, which are normally pretty decent, like a 75% free throw shooter or whatever. James Harden, not a lot of scoring from him in this one, 5 points, but 11 assists. That was great to see. Didn't take a ton of shots, only hit 1. I think James Harden's, it's been pretty clear that James Harden's kind of like taking it easy this preseason. It's kind of to be expected. I expect James Harden to be ready by the time that the season starts. He was so good for us last year. I expect more of that going into this year. This game was a fun one from Brook Lopez coming off the bench. 15 points, led the bench in points, total points. 17 minutes from Brook, 15 points, 3 of 6 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Watching Brooke Lopez shoot has already been so nice. I mean, obviously, just having a competent backup center has already been more than enough. But having a competent center that can stretch the floor to the level that Brooke Lopez can has been just a joy. The dude is taking contested threes over bigs. I think in this one he had a step back three, a pump fake step back three. It's so nice to not have to worry about, all right, Moses Brown, Kai Jones. I do like Daniel Tice. He was a little short, but those guys, checking into the game, um, and just praying that they're Mason Plumlee. I forgot about him because he's just so awful. But guys like that checking into the game, you kind of hold your breath. Because Zoo played so many minutes and was such a huge part of everything last year that he deserved to have a little bit of a rest, and we weren't really able to get that last year with the options that we had at the backup center. But Brooke Lopez has been incredible. I mean, obviously it's preseason, but I mean, it's what you expect from a guy like Brooke Lopez. Like I said, former champion, former All-Star, started more times than not throughout his career. Actually, I think this might be the first time that he's come off the bench in his career. Maybe a little bit with the Lakers. I can't really remember, but nevertheless, it's been awesome. And one interesting thing, and La Murray touched upon it several days ago, but all throughout preseason, the Clippers it's been pretty apparent that Ty Lue has gone with, at the point guard position, either James Harden or Chris Paul on the floor at all times. A little bit of Jason Preston, a little Kobe Sanders, but nevertheless, a strong playmaker. And then from the center position, there was really no small ball at all. This preseason, it was either Zoo, Brooke Lopez, or our rookie Yannick Niederhauser. So it seems like with the additions that the Clippers have made this season, Ty Lue is really kind of leaning into, and maybe this is just a preseason thing, but Ty Lue is really leaning into kind of more of a traditional lineup. Maybe he's just not trying to play his hand too strongly in terms of his small ball lineups and his secret weapons in terms of going small. Now we have John Collins, obviously Nico Batum, Derek Jones, and guys like that. But I like the fact that the Clippers are going big and more traditional positionally. I think it's great. Positions 2 through 4 are kind of more in flux, but it seems like the bookends of the starting five and of the bench lineup have been pretty traditional. So it's been really good. All that to say that the Denver Nuggets did take this win 102-94, but it was a great game. Did not feel like a preseason game for most of it. The next game was the LA Clippers. I don't know why I said LA. It was the Clippers and the Kings. Clippers ended up taking the win, 109-91. Kawhi Leonard yet again. Actually, no. Kawhi Leonard did, as far as the starting lineup goes, Kawhi Leonard chipped in with 15 points in 27 minutes. Not as efficient as the previous two games, but still pretty solid. And he, didn't get hurt in this one. So that's a win in and of itself. Derek Jones started over John Collins in this one, which was interesting. So the starting lineup in this one was Kawhi Leonard, Derek Jones, Ivica Zubac, James Harden, and Jordan Miller. So I'm wondering, based off of that wrinkle, if Ty Lue's pretty set on John Collins coming off the bench. I kind of prefer him to start, but I'm a big Derek Jones guy. I think the two will be pretty interchangeable throughout the season. Good stuff from Derek Jones. 12 points, 5 for 10 from the field. Zoo, more of a quiet night from him. Only 4 points, 8 rebounds. Harden with 8 points. Not a lot of assists. Not a great Harden game again, but like I said, I think that he hasn't really taken preseason very seriously, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think that he's kind of saving himself for the regular season because he knows how important he is to this team. The interesting thing, two things actually, was the aforementioned John Collins, who was coming off the bench. 24 points from John Collins. This was incredible to see. A lot of it was from the free throw line, but 7 for 8 from the field. 24 points in 18 minutes is great. Chipped in with 6 rebounds. No other stat, but no turnovers. 24 points. Like, that is what you want from John Collins. I've been really, really impressed with John Collins so far in preseason. He's found ways to contribute, all across the board. The activity on the glass has been great. And then Brook Lopez, again, 16 points, 4 for 5 from three. He was lighting it up from three in this one. Four of his 8 shots, five of his 8 shots were from three. Hit 4 of them. Great stuff from Brook again. CP with a quiet night in terms of scoring, only 8 points, but 10 assists. Again, you can't ask for more from backup point guard from what we've seen with Chris Paul. I'm getting ahead of myself, guys, but I don't know. I can't help it. I'm excited. I don't have to worry about the aspiration stuff right now. And it's just been good basketball from the Clippers. I really like what I've seen. Not really going to get too much into anybody else. Quiet night from just about everybody else. But again, I mentioned him before, but Chris Dunn, he only 4 points, but the defensive activity is there. I like the lineups, believe it or not. I like the lineups where Chris Dunn and Chris Paul are on the floor together. It's interesting because it seems like Chris Dunn has become like the trigger man. He'll take the ball up the court, run a set, and then give the ball to Chris Paul to kind of finish the play. It's been interesting, and I think that Ty Lue is going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be difficult with all of these mouths to feed, but I think Ty Lue is going to have a ton of fun with this team this year and this roster that he has. But yeah, this one was a fun one. The Kings, I'm not really going to get, again, I'm going to try and make this quick. I'm not going to get much into them. The Kings did add Russell Westbrook. I'm happy to see Russ stay in the league. I really am. Obviously it didn't work out with the Clippers, but I do think that the league is a better place, and I'm probably going to get hate for this, but the league is a better place with Russell Westbrook in it. Regardless of his, inefficiencies and maybe his inability to kind of conform to a role at times. I mean, the dude competes, and that was like the thing that I liked the most about him in his time with the Clippers. So he didn't play in this one. The Kings, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from the Kings this season. I hope they're not as bad as I think that they might be. Just I have sympathy for the Kings, but I don't know. It's looking interesting to say the least. And then that final preseason game, which I unfortunately didn't get to tune into, was a 106-103 win against the Golden State Warriors. This one kind of went down to the wire. Again, I didn't, unfortunately, wasn't able to tune into this, but it seemed like it was kind of close there at the end. But I mean, the Warriors played pretty much all of their starting lineup in this one. Several guys didn't play for the Clippers in this one. I believe Kawhi Leonard was out. It looks like, Kawhi didn't play in this one. I'm so sorry, guys. James Harden did not play in this one. Several of the key pieces for the Clippers sat out in this one. But the most important thing to talk about in this one was Bradley Beal made his Clippers debut. 15 minutes, 12 points, 6 of 9 from the field. Really efficient stuff from Brad. Good to see. Did have 3 turnovers, but I think I think he was kind of acting as the primary ball handler, at least in terms of the starting lineup. And so that's kind of to be expected. He is coming back from some sort of knee injury, so I'm willing to give him a little bit more grace. But from a scoring standpoint, 12 points in 15 minutes is great. I haven't talked much about Bradley Beal over the course of this offseason, just because I think that he's probably the biggest kind of what if, or like an unknown commodity that the Clippers have added. And I didn't even mention him early on, guys. I'm struggling, so bear with me, please. But yeah, I think he's probably like the biggest unknown commodity in terms of the guys that the Clippers have added this offseason, just because I think he does a lot of the things. He does a lot of the same things that like James Harden and Kawhi do. He scores, he's a playmaker. He's very similar to Norm, but the thing that I do like is he's much more of a willing playmaker than Norm was, and I think in a way Bradley Beal will kind of be slotting into that role that was left in as Norm departed. Just be a secondary bucket getter, or even a third option. Like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed on this Clipper team, but just to find ways to score when the opportunity presents itself. Don't force anything. But I think, if he can and assuming he's going to play, he's going to play with the starters, which I would imagine that he is, um, just to find a way to contribute without kind of stepping on anybody's toes. I don't think that I don't think that we got Bradley Beal to try and replicate the scoring output that we got from Norman Powell last season. I think that Norman Powell was amazing last season. He was obvious. I mean, he was our leading scorer for most, if not all, of the season. He was fantastic, and I'm wishing him the best of luck in Miami. But I think that part of that was a little bit, especially when it came time to the playoffs, that aspect of our team was a little bit fickle because, Norm doesn't have a ton of size on guys. He doesn't play a lot of defense and he doesn't make plays for others. And so when the shot's not falling, the team loses a pretty significant dimension. Whereas I think with Bradley Beal, you have a little bit more room for flexibility. You're not going to get, like I said, you're not going to get the scoring output that you got with Norm, but you'll probably get something similar, at least in terms of like where they get their shots on the floor. But at least you'll have that safety net of, okay, this guy can make a play for other people too, or he's more willing to make a play for other people as well, which I really like. So I'm really interested to see how Bradley Beal fits in when everybody's healthy in that starting lineup. But this was a good sign. Even though it's only 12 points, 15 minutes, 6 for 9 from the field, I like what I'm seeing from in that respect. Aside from that, not really much else to write home about. Aside from this was a game where the young guys really showed a lot of promise. Namely, Kobe Sanders, who was the Clippers' second round pick. Out of Nevada, I believe. No, Nevada, maybe. I'm a horrible Clipper fan. I'm sorry, guys. But Kobe Sanders, a plus size guard, he kind of plays more like a forward, but he can make plays, can handle the ball. 25 points for Kobe Sanders. This was awesome. Just from the highlights alone, he showed a lot of craftiness. A tight dribble, change of speed. Got to the hoop, was able to hit a couple threes, I believe. Yeah, four threes, actually, to be exact. Really good stuff from Kobe Sanders. The other Kobe Brown, who started, not as good. I still like Kobe Brown a lot. But I'm curious to see if he will even have the ability to make a jump, but if he does have the ability to make a jump, if he will. Just because we're kind of seeing like the promise of Kobe Brown, but we never really see. And granted, like I said, he hasn't really been given the opportunity, but I don't know. He's just an interesting positionless kind of player. Can do a lot of things, but nothing specifically very well. So yeah, interesting to see what Kobe Brown's future with the Clippers looks like. But Kobe Sanders looked really good in this one. Cam Christie looked great as well. 12 points. 4 for 6 from the field. And Yannick had himself a game. I believe he had a poster on Quentin Post. That was really nice. Had the bench all up in their feet. But 13 points from Yannick, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. The dude vaporizes shots at the rim. Like, he's really, really raw offensively. Very limited offensively at this point. Outside of like a lob catcher or like very close quarters. But his defensive instincts seem like they're there. He's not a bad rebounder, and he's a freak athlete. I mean, if he can add some discipline, some ball IQ, and just like kind of more of a refined aspect to his game, I think he could be a really good player. And touching on what I said before about Ty Lue seemingly preferring a bigger traditional lineup as opposed to last season or the seasons prior, there might be a time where Yannick is called upon during the season to actually play significant minutes. So very, very interested to see what we'll get out of Yannick in this season. I'm not expecting much, but interesting nonetheless. That's really all I needed to touch on in that last one. And overall, again, just to round this whole discussion out, a lot to be excited about for this team just based on the preseason alone. I mean, obviously we were all excited with the acquisitions, but seeing the possibilities and seeing like the different combinations, and also seeing Ty Lue be willing to kind of go out of his comfort zone in terms of like not going small all the time. It's a really welcome sign. I'm very curious to see how this team plays defensively, because that was a huge part of the Clippers' identity last year. Jeff Van Gundy was a huge part of that. I don't know if you guys saw the shirts that Jeff Van Gundy made for the coaching staff, but it was like, it was fuck as an acronym, and it was like a bunch of defensive phrases or defensive euphemisms. It was really cool. So having a guy like that really cares that much about defense, and like the little intangibles and stuff like that, I really trust that our coaching staff is going to have a lot of have their work cut out for them this season, but have a lot of options as well. And if they play their cards right, I think that we can see a lot of really good stuff out of the amount of different combinations that we have on this Clipper team. We're going to take a quick break, guys, and then I'm going to kind of round this episode out. We're going to go on our way, and I'm recording this on the 20th of October, Monday, and tomorrow the NBA season officially starts, so I could not be more excited about it. I will kind of conclude this episode coming up. All right, guys, we are back. So, aside from the preseason stuff and aside from the obvious, new look team, I think, pending the investigation with the aspiration thing, which I don't have a lot of input on this. I don't really understand all of it, but just based off of what like Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard and everybody that's been asked about it has said, in terms of them being willing for the NBA to, do their due diligence and do their jobs to investigate and front to back, and they feel like they didn't do anything wrong. I'm like cautiously optimistic about, a relatively clean verdict for the Clippers. I think the whole situation is fucked up. I think getting involved with a fraudulent company that's going to scam people out of millions and millions and billions of dollars is a messed up situation. But, as long as the Clippers weren't involved in any wrongdoing, then the NBA will come to that conclusion when they come to that conclusion. So, aside from all of that, I think the things that I would love to see the Clippers start out the season with. So I'm just going to read off, the first little chunk of the season. Clippers start the season on Wednesday, October 22nd against the Utah Jazz in Utah. Then they got Phoenix, Portland, Golden State, New Orleans, Miami, OKC. Then back-to-back games against Phoenix, Atlanta, Denver, Dallas. Then things start getting a little bit interesting, but I think that's a doable start to the season for the Clippers. And I think if the Clippers don't play with their food to start the season and really take this season seriously, and obviously we're going to expect growing pains. Obviously we're going to expect guys getting acclimated to their role. We have a couple guys coming back from injury. So that's going to be taken into account, trying to figure out, who fits with who, which guy is better suited on which rotation, whether it be starter or bench. All that being considered, I think that the Clippers should be able to handle business and get through these first 10, 11, 12 games with a really good record. And I think with how difficult the season ends up getting later on down the road, I think that is extremely important for this Clipper team if they want to do anything going into the postseason. Handle business early, and build good habits early so that aspect of things only gets better as the season goes by, specifically on the defensive end. I really think it's important for the Clippers to retain that identity of being a defensive-minded team, defense first. They have the pieces to be an even elevated offensive team than they were last year, obviously. But I think as long as the defensive side of things doesn't get lost, I think that this is going to be a very, very fun season. I mean, I didn't have as many expectations going into the season as I did in years prior, if not only because, and this was even before we got Chris Paul, but I told myself if we got Chris Paul, I would be happy with really any result for this Clippers season, as long as the Clippers weren't dog shit. I just want to see good basketball. I want to see the legacy of this whole thing come to a positive end. Chris Paul retiring, the last year or two of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden's tenure, the growth of Zoo. Like, there's a very good opportunity for this Clippers team to do something special, not only just in terms of a record and result, but just from like a narrative standpoint. And I'm a big fan of narratives. I love a storyline. I love the lore. And the Clippers have a really good opportunity to be able to kind of do right by this franchise, just in terms of, a feel good story. I don't know, a feel good end to an era, and the ushering in of a new era. So a lot to be excited about, Clipper fans. I am certainly excited, and I'm gonna be going to a lot of games this season. I have like a half season ticket package, so I will be at a lot of games. So if you see me and you watch the show, feel free to say what's up. Get at us as always on Instagram and on Twitter. Let us know what you guys think of this season, what you're most excited for, what you're most cautious about, things that you think that the Clippers may fall short on. All of it. I want to hear about all of it. So let us know what you think in the comments, like I said, on Twitter and on Instagram. And as I said up top, you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer. You can watch us on YouTube. Rolla and I should be kind of back on schedule once the season starts. We've both been really busy, but we're trying to get you guys your Clipper news the best way that we can. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Clip Service podcast. And here's to the Unction. We might be old, but I think we're going to be really fun to watch. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and let's go Clips.